Welcome back to Tomb Raider Tuesday, lovelies! Kicking off with a cutscene, so I'll shut my mouth and let you take in all the glory that mid-90s computer animation has to offer.
You just pulled the tough end of a wishbone. Howdy.
Afternoon.
Left Larson sucking wind then, eh?
If that is the phrase.
Well, your little vacation riot's over now. Time to give back what you've hijacked off me.
Let's try the lunchbox.
Well, kill her!
Hey!
You morons! Let's go.
What the heck was that? What? That away. Probably just a fish. Maybe some fish, kid. Man, you have got to learn to chill. I'm going back inside. You coming? Steady. Here she goes.
We ready yet?
Alrighty, here we are in the first level of the Atlantean subset, Natla's Mines, which, interestingly, was originally titled I Hope You Like Difficulty Spikes, because here's one the size of a mammoth's tusk up your dick hole. But it was changed, obviously, because that was also the name of Aretha Franklin's debut album, and they didn't want to fight a legal battle over it. And this jagged, ashen-looking bowel of the earth is simultaneously the highest ranking thesaurus entry for the phrase a developer's mocking laughter, and a gargantuan disorientating labyrinth filled with a staggering amount of insta-kill death traps, including but not limited to lava pits, molten boulders, and many, many narrow ledges giving way to fatal drops. Despite this, there are only 3 enemies to be found in Natla's Mines, but they are an exceedingly deadly trio that consist of the 3 uncouth gentlemen that you saw in the previous cutscene, stealing our hard-gained ski-on and all of our weapons. That's right, you begin this subterranean nightmare without weapons of any description, so our first order of business is to get them back. Thankfully, we retain all the ammo and medipacks that we've picked up thus far. I guess Lara was hiding all of those inside the gaping vortex in time and space that inhabits her pockets or, you know, wherever women hide things, rather than the backpack those hoodlums so rudely rifled through without our permission. Or maybe they just didn't think we'd ever be able to rearm ourselves to be able to use them. Fools! Fools! We'll have to grab our pistols first and then take our arsenal back one by one from these goons as we murder them, which I always find to be an immensely satisfying endeavour, no matter how many times I play through this. Now, as we come out here, the camera draws your attention to the cabin suspended in mid-air on the left there. That is where your pistols are currently interred, and to get them back we will have to locate 3 fuses to use in the control room behind it, which will drop it down to the floor. Why did they take Lara's pistols and just leave them in a porta cabin 20 feet above the ground? Why? Ask all you want. Nobody's gonna answer you. Because gaming. Because. That's the best you'll get here. That rumbling sound you just heard was a boulder racing us down the ramp to the opening. Failed to beat it in time and you'll have to take the long way round to reach the first of the fuses we need. But listen, before I get into discussing this level properly, let's talk about the cutscene that came before it. And hell, let's just talk about the plot in general up to this point, because I've got no real history lessons to give you about this place. Unless you want a history on mining. I'm guessing you don't. That's fine. So, let's take this opportunity to iron a few of Tomb Raider's narrative wrinkles out here. Alright, let's start at the beginning for the sake of a complete perspective, shall we? So, Lara is kicking back in her hotel in Calcutta, reading up on her recent murder of Bigfoot, which, knowing Lara as we do from this game, was completely unprovoked and committed just because she could. Larson approaches and presents Natla, who gives Lara her initial assignment of retrieving the first piece of the Scion from Qualipec's tomb under the mountains of Peru. Now, important point here, she initially tries to buy Lara's involvement, but Lara responds, "Sorry, I only play for sport." Remember that, because we'll come back around to it in a moment. So, Lara goes to Peru, retrieves the Scion, and as she attempts to leave, is attacked by Larson. Now, this is the major hinge that doesn't make sense. Why? Why does Natla send Larson to kill Lara and take the Scion? That makes as much sense as hiring somebody to lay your driveway, and then just as they're tipping out the last bits of shingle, you come up behind them, put a bullet in their fucking head. In fact, it makes even less sense than that, because they probably wanted paying. And Lara already established that she's not after any great sum of money, aside presumably for a nominal fee that covers travel and equipment costs that she would already have taken, so Natla's not trying to have her killed to protect her bank balance. So why do it? She has no reason to believe that Lara's out to double cross her. You know, for all Natla knows, she sent somebody to do a job, and now they've done it, so what? Now you're gonna rob and murder her? Because you're video game evil? It just does not make a shit of sense. If you've made a minor tweak to the plot so that in Qualipec's tomb, Lara learns that the Scion is an immensely powerful artifact with the potential to deal catastrophic damage to humanity, and after seeing this she refuses to hand it over to Larson, who has been sent to collect it from her, rather than just shoot her dead on the spot, then Natla would have a real justification and purpose to go after Lara and try to have her killed. I mean, she sent Pierre Dupont after the second piece of the Scion in Greece, and presumably she was going to have him shot too, but then again, was she? Because within 5 minutes of arriving in St. Francis Folly, Pierre's trying to gun you down as well. But anyway, baffling motives aside, let's examine the cutscene that started this level, which is simultaneously great and awful for many a reason. Because first you have Natla and her 3 goons, who, I don't know where she got these guys from. There's an honest-to-God cowboy with a pair of 6-shooters and a cowboy hat and a fucking neckerchief that says howdy. A child, like an actual teenager, and a huge black dude who, actually when you fight him at the end of the level, has turned suspiciously Mexican, so already they're like a wrestling stable, or a gang that Spider-Man would have fought back in the 60s when Marvel needed a bumper issue between a Dr. Octopus story arc and one of their heavy-handed civil rights issues. And what I like about this cutscene is that Natla doesn't waste a whole bunch of time monologuing or reveling in detailing her master plan. She just turns to her mooks and irritatedly says, "Well, kill her!" Damn right! What the fuck are you doing? Blow her head open already! But of course, goons be goons, and are all a bit slow off the mark, which allows Lara to sprint and dive into the canyon. To their credit, the kid at least makes an effort by emptying a couple of Uzi clips into the drink after her, and everybody seems fairly satisfied with that, so off they go. Now, I'm alright with the little section that comes after, with Lara on her bike jumping onto the boat. That's okay. Maybe not the roar of the motorbike and the deafening splash of it dropping into the ocean being written off as a fish. If that's a fish, you need to be immediately arming yourselves because Mecha Jaws has selected your boat for destruction, but anyway, Lara stows away inside the boat and then she just falls asleep. Falls asleep on a tiny boat without her weapons in the midst of a bunch of hoodlums that want her dead. What are you doing? You idiot! You clown woman! What? It's not even like she hides particularly well. She doesn't like conceal herself in any little crawl space. She doesn't even hide under the sheets. She just sees what looks like a bed and says to herself, "Oh goody, nap time." What the fuck is wrong with you? And the dialogue's so weird. Not just in that cutscene, but like throughout the whole game. The script isn't what I'd call bad, but all the interpersonal dialogue, all the conversations work from this incredibly bizarre kind of phrase set. I mean, let's take the last cutscene again. You just pulled the duff end of the wishbone. That's what the black dude says when he grabs Lara. You just pulled the duff end of the wishbone. And forget for a second that nobody would ever say that. Forget attempting to use a wishbone analogy in a threatening context. Duff end? What is he, like 70 and a farmer from Devon? Oh, what's the other thing he says? What's the... Let's try the lunchbox. What's in your lunchbox, lady? The first time I ever played this and I saw that cutscene, I was just... my stomach hurt from laughing. Where I'm from, at least, lunchbox is another term for, like, your cock and balls in your pants. So it kind of sounded like he just lost interest in the situation and was just going off into the cave to start playing with himself. Who wants to see my helicopter trick? Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. Okay, so all of our fuses are in place now and we can finally go grab our pistols and begin our revenge mission. What goes around, comes all the way back around. Who knows who Justin was directing his disarmingly non-threatening falsetto at in that pop classic. We know full well which three little piggers are getting this potent dose of come around going around though. Oh yes. And first on our list is that stupid motherfucking cowboy. But he can wait just a moment longer. He'll keep just fine. Because the descended porter cabin allows us to jump up into this little opening and go for an unusually panic-inducing secret. You run through the gate, go down slope, and oh shit! Looks like you've fallen into an inescapable lava trap, you poor fool. But after a few back and forth bounces, a wooden platform magically appears underneath you, which allows you to vault up into the cave up on the wall. Thank bloody goodness. Your large medipack and a pair of Uzi clips are your reward for that fucking ordeal. The switch on the wall there opens the gate back up and lets you run free. Right, enough games, enough merrymaking. Who wants to see a dead cowboy? You want to take my guns, cowboy? You want to menacingly greet me with turn of the century anachronisms, you son of a bitch? I will shoot you dead, motherfucker, with my pistols, which is gonna take a very, very long time. We're also faced with a somewhat unfair advantage on the cowboy's part, as he happens to be in possession of my magnums. Well, Pierre's magnums. No, actually, I got the magnums before Pierre, didn't I? I just took Pierre's for prosperity. Because I'm a Tomb Raider. And fuck me, did Pierre get tombed hard. Alright, here we are. He's in the same area that you pick up the second fuse, and there are two ways this can go. Good or bad. Let's find out which one we've drawn today. Please let it be good. This level's long enough without... Oh, bollocks. We drew bad. Alright. Fuck. So basically, when you pick up the second fuse, the cowboy is already there, waiting to be triggered. Now, if you go too far into that room, he'll become active early, which at that point, you obviously don't want because you haven't got your guns back yet. Hence why we backtracked here. And normally he says something like, ain't nothing personal, which is how you know you're fucked up. Now, he didn't say that when we were in there, but that's not always a reliable indicator. And the difference is, if you don't trigger him early, he's much easier to fight here because you've got a big wide open space to do it in. But when we arrived, he was already in the tunnel leading to that space, so we've got to kill him here. Like this. Like a gun-wielding kangaroo. Which I really don't like doing, but I cannot overstate how fucking deadly he is and how quickly he can kill you while you're packing these weedy little pistols. God damn it, this takes forever. And look, it's like he can shoot you through the box as well, so, I mean, this isn't foolproof. This is just really the safest way of worming your way out of a shitty situation. Is that it? All dead now? Thank fucking Lord. That was an ugly business. I don't feel good about killing anything like that at all. But what's done is done, and the magnums are mine once more. Let's see if the speech cue triggers here, because it didn't before.
Ain't nothing personal.
Ah, he's returned from cowboy hell to take his revenge. But yeah, that's what it's supposed to play when you activate him by coming too far in here. And as you'll have seen back in places like the Lost Valley with the T-Rex attack, Tomb Raider ties some of its sound cues to specific points on the game map, which means you can activate them more than once. Because in that instance, it sounded like another T-Rex was bearing down on us, but this is the only speech cue in the entire game that's tied to a map point rather than the NPCs themselves, which is strange to say the least. Well, let's put the ghost cowboys behind us for a moment here, as we've got us some deadly, deadly lava to get over, which thematically and visually is the strong point of this level. There is a lot of hate for Natla's mines out there, but I think that once you get over the fact that the difficulty spikes massively for these three closing levels, and that it's maybe a bit drab to look at, it's very well designed, and it makes great use of its gargantuan space to disorientate you. The only real problem with it is that it doesn't make a dribble of fucking sense. Every level we've played so far has been a tomb or an outlying area of a tomb, constructed to keep nosy adventurers and treasure hunters away from an ancient superweapons. So all the raised switches, the death traps, the merciless trials that you come across, they make sense. I mean, you know, Tomb Raider sense, video game sense, but this is a mine. People work here. Why is the switch to activate the drilling equipment nearly a mile over the other side of the damn place and like pokey little corridor that you have to push a crate up to an opening to get out? Why is there a porta cabin with a collapsible roof that sends you plunging down a mine shaft? Why are there fucking flaming boulder traps primed and ready to crush anything that comes within 40 feet of them? Like, no wonder this place is empty. No wonder we're not having to blast our way through scores of employees. Who would hate themselves enough to work here? Where did Natla recruit a workforce from? Fucking Dignitas? You play this, you immediately realise how the woman made her fortune. Nobody lives long enough on the job to collect a bloody paycheck. Well, we just grabbed ourselves a shotgun there without having to kill anybody for it, which is nice, but doesn't change the fact that we will still have to face a very deadly boss wielding one at the end of the stage. Next up though is the oozes, but we've got a fair few trials ahead of us before we get to the annoying little shitbag keeping them warm for us. You want to talk about unrealistic functions in a mine? Goodness me, you wait till we get there, you're in for a treat. Alright, time for a bit of careful hopping to bring us across this bubbling chamber of volcano spooge. You drilled too deep, Natla! You drilled too damn deep! You know, thanks to some fairly glaring clues left in the file names and original prototypes for this game, everything points towards proving a theory that Atlantis was meant to come before Egypt in stage chronology here. And I mean, it would certainly make far more sense from a narrative perspective, as in the last Egyptian level that we played, Sanctuary of the Skion, the third part of the Skion is just there. It's not guarded by anyone or anything. Besides Larsen, of course. The dread mythological beast Larsen. The other two parts of it are buried with Qualapec and Teoken. If it were in Atlantis, well, that would follow logic, because as we see from the inscriptions on the wall of the tomb of Teoken, Atlantis was destroyed by galactic calamities raining down on it, and Qualapec and Teoken flee to Peru and Greece respectively, taking their peace with them. Whereas the other one just happens to fly off into Egypt somewhere, seemingly of its own accord. Had it gone down with the city instead, then it would follow that Natla would be the only one that knew where it was to look for it, hence all this damn drilling. Because, as I'm sure you figured out by now, Natla is the third rogue Atlantean ruler that the game has been dropping hints about. Now, the final level of this whole game is called the Great Pyramid, which, as we discussed last episode, is a real place in Egypt, long rumoured to have incredibly strong supernatural powers, which would just be ideal for using the Skion to create an unstoppable mutant army. So, again, it would work that the original location for the Great Pyramid was not in Atlantis, but in its very real namesake in Egypt. That ties itself up nicely for me, but I think what happened is that the Atlantis levels wound up being a lot more difficult than the Egyptian ones, or at least had far more of an opportunity to be during the design process, and they just got switched around because there are prototype models for enemies like an Atlantean T-Rex and killer Atlantean fish that indicate that their imaginations just ran wild on this particular environment, and they wound up saying, well, hey, fuck it, let's make this the finale instead. Alright, this passageway brings us out above the area where we were supposed to fight the cowboy, had he not been such a cheating fuck and ambushed us in the corridor instead. And if we climb to the top of the slope here, we'll find us some ammo and the switch that blows up all those TNT crates that we were shoving around just a minute ago. Get ready for one of the most spectacular explosions in video game history here. Oh gosh, yes. That's where the budget went on this one. Thankfully, the incredibly stupid act of triggering about 12 tons of explosives doesn't actually bury us alive, and merely clears us a nice safe path through to our next victim. Gotta be careful here, this is a tricky jump to nail from the angle they give you. Just gotta tuck around the wall like so, and that'll do you. Do you know what the worst mining disaster in history was? You'd think it'd be in one of those pre-20th century death traps, but it was actually 1942 at the Bengtsahu colliery in China. A gas and coal dust explosion that took out 1,549 people. It was Japanese controlled, and they drastically drove up the death toll by sealing off the entrance to the mine. Alright, this next boss raises so many questions, but let's hang on to them until he's dead, because he can be a real pain in the arse. Here, don't miss his amazing dialogue.
You firing at me? You firing at me, huh? Ain't nobody else here. You must be firing at me.
Doesn't that alone make you want to start shooting at his head and just never stop? The cringe is real. His official name is Skateboard Kid. I'm sure you remember him from the previous cutscene, and true to what I'm sure adorns his birth certificate, he flies around on his skateboard wielding a pair of Uzis which can just chew away at your life bar like a fucking piranha. Look, yeah, you see that? That's the rate your health bar would drop out in a plane crash. But he's gone to skate in heaven now, like that god-awful OPM song couldn't stop banging on about 10 years ago. And we are 2 Uzis up and 2 names down on this level's murder list. There's a little underwater secret area over the gap and to the right here. Everything else is lava, except for this one little pool, which is presumably here in case Skateboard Kid ever set himself on fire, trying to hippity-hoppity 360 unicorn disco pop or whatever Tony Hawk's calling his bullshit these days. Once you're done here, you can climb up to a little vantage point overlooking the area outside where you can shoot at Skateboard Kid from relative safety, if you so choose. It takes forever though. He'll cross your line of sight like once a minute, and then disappear to, I don't know, smoke a fat one, if we're following the stereotypes here, and complain about the man getting on his back for vandalising council property with his child's toy. You damn kids, take up a real hobby, like competitive dog grooming. You want a real adrenaline rush? Try combing a mentally disturbed pit bull terrier from a dogfighting circle and see how long it takes the PTSD meltdown to start. I can assure you, my thrill-seeking friends, it will be far from gnarly or sick. Sickening, maybe. And the stump where your hand used to be could definitely be described as gnarled. But, why am I explaining this to you? You don't have the balls to comb a dog in front of a panel of your betters, you little bitch. Go read Thrasher magazine on the toilet and cry as you try to push a dump out past your shattered tailbone. And don't ever come by this parking lot again. This is dog groomer country, boy. We only bark once. So, I said that Fighting Skateboard Kid raised some questions, and here they are. Number 1, why is there a motherfucking skate park built into the middle of a mine? What part of that makes sense? Because that's what it is. It's undeniably a skate park. There's no other purpose that environment could hold. No practical use whatsoever for that room in a working mine. What the fuck? Was it part of Skateboard Kid's terms of employment? Like, even if he was some kind of legendary mercenary, and Natla really wanted to hire him at any cost, spare no expense, and he had it written into his contract that whoever employed him also had to build him a skate park, why is it here? Why is it 100 feet underground in a place that ultimately he spends next to no time? I mean, I know that's an assumption, but let's go out on a limb here and make a wild guess that Natla didn't hire Johnny Ringo, Clubber Lang, and bad life choices Bart Simpson for their extensive knowledge on quarrying, shaft maintenance and excavation. Let's throw all our money on 21 Red here and say that they answered an advert for Callous Assassins instead. Is he really worth that much time and effort? Because that's literally the only room in the entire mine where he could have fought me. If he tried to skate on the gravelly rocky grounds of the shaft and tunnels, he'd get thrown off his board onto his arse. Can't skate on sand, that's why he didn't fight me in Egypt. So, to accommodate this idiot, Natla would have to build him a skate park in the middle of whatever area she takes him, just so he can function as a basic hired goon. No, why am I trying to reason this out? Why is there a skate park in the middle of a mine? You have no good answers. There is nothing approaching a sane response to that. So let's move on. Second question. Well, this isn't really a question as much as it is an observation. Did Lara just shoot a child to death? That's pretty fucking heavy, isn't it? You'd have to say. Such a fuss always gets kicked up about her running around exterminating wildlife and protected species. But hold on, rewind to the first game, rewind to Natla's mines, and here she is just racking bullets into a teenager on a skateboard. Because that's his name, Skateboard Kid. It says it right there in the file names. Not Skateboard Man, not Skateboard Young Adult. They're fine, they don't get shot. Skateboard Kid does. And it's not like it's just a nickname. The final dude in this level we've got to kill is called Bald Man, so they've gone out of their way to specifically differentiate the age gap that's obviously there. God damn. We all knew early Lara was cold, but she didn't even hesitate. As soon as she clapped eyes on the little fucker, up came the guns and out came the lead. Alright, enough about infanticide for one day. We've been shoving blocks around these featureless brown tunnels for a good couple of minutes now, and I'm sure you want to know why. Well, check out the fancy shiny decor on this wall switch, my friend. This is a former Atlantean house, or office of some kind. Boy, did they know how to live. Once we step outside, we'll be bang in front of their own Great Pyramid, which is the real reason that Natla went mining out in the middle of nowhere, but first we got us a bald man to kill. As you'll see in a second, his appearance and voice seem to have dramatically changed from the cutscene.
Say cheese!
See? What is that? Let's see what's in my lunchbox.
Say cheese!
What? What's going on? Oh dear. My lapse in concentration has put me in a pretty awful position here. Best to try and stay behind him and make him charge around in circles. Fucking hell. Flapping fuck almighty, that was close. See, he's got much more of a Mexican bandito look going on here. He's not even wearing his damn coat. Or original coloured skin. I think if they could have gotten away with giving him a giant sombrero to wear, they would have done, frankly. But then you'd have two goons in hats. You can't have that. That'd be ridiculous. Alright, you gotta nail your jumps here. So basically, the complete opposite of that. Or you'll go sliding down to the bottom of the pyramid and have to start all over again. The idea here is to get to the top and leap over to the left where there's a little cave with a switch to the key that will let us inside the pyramid. God fucking damn it. Really helps when the camera starts spazzing around all over the place. No, you couldn't possibly want to look at where you want to land, could you? Have an extreme close-up of some triangle tits instead. When we run back past that dude, you'll see he's still got his shotgun, even though we just picked it up from his cold dead corpse. You can stick that in the IMDb goof section. It's all good in the report, Murkoff! Oh, wrong game. Look at him, look. Where'd you get that from, lad? You snake? No, I don't care if it was made in 1996. I don't give a shit. Now there's 3 shotguns to determine the ownership of. It's a logistical nightmare. Somebody took my one, we know that. So which one is it? Is it the one I found in the mines? The one I picked up from his body? Or the one he's still got? I want my shotgun back. And come to think of it, whose oozes have I got? Because Skateboard Kid already had 2 that he stuck in my face when I come out the cave in the cutscene. Have I got mine or his? I don't even know that these are my pistols. What have you done with my guns, Natla? Well, I'm gonna get some damn answers now. Or rather, next week as we head into the dark heart of Atlantis itself. There's your 100% stat screen to show you I know what I'm doing, as always. But here's a little treat to play you out. A small cutscene showing Natla using the ski-on to whack her nefarious scheme into motion. Enjoy it while you can, woman. I'll see you next time.
Bitch, how we do things downtown.